So I want to start this video out how I plan to start other videos like this one and ones in the past where I seemingly am complaining about BMX and diving deep into a rant about the BMX industry or BMX at large by saying that BMX is the best it has ever been in my eyes. We're in an era where we can go and ride whatever we want, whether it's a public skate park, bike park, jump park, pump track, going riding street. We can go and ride whatever we want more easily than anyone has ever been able to in BMX history. There are events going on every single weekend, it seems like, all around the entire world. And we have BMX just now being in the Olympics for the second time. But it still feels like something is missing in BMX. And that's where the title of this one comes from, because it really does feel like something is missing. And how can I say that BMX is the best it has ever been, but still feel like something is missing? Well, it's because I have the mindset that things can always be better, and there's always ways to improve upon whatever state something is in, even if it's the best that it has ever been. And so what I think that is missing from BMX for a lot of people, obviously not for everyone, and I'm not speaking in a blanket statement here generally as if it applies to everyone exactly the same, is that I feel like a huge thing missing in the world of BMX is real in-person interaction between normal riders, everyday riders, or people who are up and coming, whatever the state might be, non-pros and their heroes. And you know, we're in a place where if you're able to go to Swamp Fest or Battle of Hastings, or if you live in a hotbed for the BMX industry, that might not be the case. But for most of the country, and definitely a lot of the world, it just doesn't exist. And I have notes, that's why I keep looking down, because I want to stay on track with this one and have some sort of structure here. But people at large just generally don't get that experience in BMX today. And I understand that there are plenty of reasons why BMX is struggling hard right now. A lot of companies still have way too much inventory that they're not able to sell through, and companies are struggling. But there's always a but. I still think that this is a missing thing and it could be solved. And I want to reiterate, BMX is once again better than it has ever been before. Like, the bikes are better, the riding is better, subjectively. Video technology and connectivity between us as riders is better than it has ever been, for better or for worse. But I still see a lacking in these in-person interactions between non-pros and their heroes, whether it's kids getting to ride with someone they look up to or anyone that they look up to, or whether it's, you know, older guys who are getting back into BMX and wanting to ride with one of their heroes or seeing whatever. And I think that obviously a big reason for that is the struggle that BMX is going on, and immediately it cuts out things like skate park tours or traveling around the country, stopping at different bike shops and skate parks and whatever it might be. You know, trips and what are essential costs to companies are going to be some of the first to go in this kind of world that we're in right now, where there is real struggle, and there has been for years. But what I do think is that it is entirely possible for companies to do shop stops and meetups and whatever it might be in cost efficient ways using methods that they're already doing. So the reason that this all has been sparked at all was because my buddy Jeff Mead in our little group Instagram chat that we have said how there needs to be more shop stops in BMX, and kind of went into a little bit, and I was like, hold up, give me a minute. I'm gonna try and light some fires here. And I instantly went and made an Instagram story, and I suppose I could just pull the exact Instagram story up that I made, because I made a highlight on my Instagram of this. But what I wrote is that BMX needs more shop stops and planned meetups where people from random town in random state get to meet and actually interact with their favorite riders. Like the days where a company's team would just travel with a box jump and put on shows. But we just need to make it make sense in 2024. You know, grind box, flat rail, whatever the obstacle might be. But all you have to do is put the word out, show up, ride with whoever's there, put on a little demo where only the pros get to ride for a little bit, get stoked, make BMX better. So I made this story fully knowing that BMX is in a tough spot right now. But I also made this story fully knowing that there are companies who are still out there making trips. And I can't act like no companies are doing shop stops whatsoever or meeting at different skate parks at all, because it's definitely still happening. It is just nowhere near the frequency that I remember it happening before COVID, and even 5 to 10 years before that. It used to happen all the time. You would see bike shop stop with different stops, like flyers for that posted up, and then the videos would come out. I remember seeing that all the time. But now it just feels like it's something that's very, very rare. And I get that bike shops seemingly are caring the least that they ever have about BMX. It's struggling. It's not a high margin area, and they're not selling for high dollar amounts, so they're not making a ton of money off of it. I get not putting the effort into that. But I also am here to say shop stops and touring to different cities and getting skate or bike shops involved with that could be a way to help it. And so what I'm also saying is that I want to continue on my whole topic of shop stops here. So I made this story having no idea what would actually come of it. And within 10 minutes, I had 2 different team managers from 2 different companies reply to this saying like, we're on it. We're already trying. It's in process. It's going to happen, which is awesome. I'm so glad to see that. And then I didn't anticipate what would come next at all. And it was just story after story of different people talking about when blank team came to visit their local spot and how stoked they were about that, and how it's still a huge thing that they remember and means a lot to them and is a very important memory today. And so I just wanted to kind of go through some of these for a second in this whole thing too, just to show how much these shop stops and random shows that were put on meant to people. When the Etnies team came to Evo, I've never forgotten that moment. Evo was the local indoor skate park to me that was a half hour from where I lived. I honestly forget who sent me this message, but I remember, I wasn't there, but I remember when the Etnies team came through and that was a thing. And honestly, that brings up my own personal experience before we get to the rest of these with someone who rode for, maybe not Etnies, sorry, but who they rode for doesn't matter. I was at Evo, and this wasn't a planned thing at all, but I was riding with my buddy Sponge, and in through the door comes somebody, and he looks over and is like, is that Chris Doyle? And he started getting all pumped up. And this was at a point in time where my response to him was, who's Chris Doyle? And the rest of that night is one that I will never forget ever, because Chris Doyle and Brian Yeagle showed up at our local indoor skate park, and one absolutely shut the place down. And it was so cool to watch, even though I had no idea who either of them were. I just know that I watched Brian Yeagle ride the flow room at Evo and go to the ceiling and ride that place with more flow than anyone I had ever seen before or after, all within like 10 minutes of them showing up. He was destroying that place. And then Doyle asking if he could use one of my lines that I was taking in that room, even though I was nothing at the time. I kind of sucked. And for him to just have the consideration to come on and be like, hey man, you care if I take the line you're taking? Try it out. And then he did. And it was like, I didn't know who you were, but already I'm a fan. And then I saw him do a 5-tapped ice pick on a 7-foot quarter first try. That is a night I will never forget. And it wasn't even a planned thing. It was just two dudes showing up at an indoor skate park to ride. That was amazing. And then other experience that I have had, I can talk about in a few minutes, but Burn Slow came to my local shop and it was the coolest experience. I got to see the Eastern team and the GT team at a skate park a half hour away from my hometown and was blown away. I think it was 2002. So awesome that even 22 years later, this is like an awesome memory for this person. 12-year-old me got to hang out with the 99 two-hip team at ASS Skate Park in Toms River. Not sure what that is. They were cool, all cool as hell, and made me love BMX more. The Mira Tour, when it went to the Incline Club, I got to hang out with Nasty when he was done with the box jumps, and the McNeil team when they went to the Incline Club, and we got the exclusive look at the McNeil cranks before they came out, all because I asked about them. I can't remember my anniversary, but those memories live with me forever. And there's so many more of these. GT coming to Pittsburgh with Dave Volker. I'll never forget it. Two Hip team when they came through. Got to meet Ron Wilkerson. I mean, just to say Two Hip and with the Ron Wilkerson thing, that is something that happened years and years and years ago. And people are still remembering it. And it means a lot to them still. FBM team driving around in their van, coming to Changa 1. Best memories ever. 2002, local shop had a GT stunt show. Ended up getting to know the guys. Took them to our trails. Next weekend was Dew Tour in Cleveland. And the one guy, Dan Sieg, invited us to come hang out with his family pass for the weekend. Still a huge highlight in my life. Buffalo BMX Jam, multiple ramps. Merritt crew came out and rode with everyone too. I was there that day. That was an awesome day for me even, because I got to meet all these Merritt dudes. Brandon Began, Charlie Crumlish, Greg Henry. Chi was there. It's where I found out about brake tar. That was an amazing day. Never forget when the Kink team came through the old Knox, Indiana park. First time riding and meeting with guys like Doyle and Casey Badger. Also another experience for me. The blackout nights that Rays would do with the Kink team, and a bunch of those Kink guys showing up for those usually. Those were always amazing nights, and so many people were super, super stoked about that. This past year, what happened for Kink Blackout Night? It was playing the same day as Winter Welcome Jam, or another big event. I think it was Winter Welcome Jam. So who knows who even showed up to that and who was there for it, when before it was made out to be this big like event where they premiered some video. Was it Intervention or something? They showed a video and a bunch of the riders were there, and it was so much fun and people got to meet their heroes. That was amazing. What else? Those dudes pulled up, talking about FBM team pulling up in 2016, lifelong friendships. Two Hip and Fit were the only shop demos I've had the opportunity to see, and they're both so much fun. Couldn't have said any better. Albie's Madeira Jam thrown at New Outdoor for me. Circa 2018-19. Got to meet all the Madeira guys. Couldn't have made me happier being the little shit I was. First tour show was Dyno in '88, meeting Volker, DeLuca, and Hernandez. First Schwinn Tour, Mira, Osato, DeGroot, Sean Peters, Pat Miller. Awesome times, and all the pros are super chill. Definitely need more of this. So I don't need to go through all of these. Actually, this is the last one. Talking about Matty Kramer, getting to meet him and how awesome he was. It's just examples of these lifelong memories that people have made because of something like a shop stop. And so I have had other experience too, but we don't need to go deeper into this. I just want to say that this stuff is entirely possible still today because we still see companies and teams doing road trips today or having a destination. Cinema comes to mind because they've been doing a lot of these like city videos, where one that I remember was that they came to Cincinnati. And what I'm wondering is, like, why couldn't a local shop or skate park thing have been planned for any type of city trip that companies make, or any type of trip at all? I get that it's extra work, but what you're creating and fostering with that extra work feels entirely worth it, especially in the era of BMX that we're in right now, where everybody talks about how bad we're struggling. Everybody talks about how BMX is like doing super, super bad. No one can sell anything. And I can't help but wonder, it's like, well, if a company is already sending people to a different state in a van and they already have bike shop connections, why not make a day where you just, even if it's just one day in this week-long trip or weekend-long thing, why not make a day where you plan to be at this skate park at this time, or this bike shop at this time? We're going to set up some ramps, or we're going to meet at the shop, then we're going to go to the skate park. And one, that's going to bring local people to the shop or the skate park all together to meet and ride with these people. It always does. There's no way that that could be argued. And two, it's also going to establish and foster relationships between the riders and the companies and these bike shops that are in the area. And another aspect of that is that it makes kids who end up being stoked on these riders want to buy those parts. And if they're already at the shop and they establish these connections, and the bike shop thinks in a business mindset, okay, if blank team comes through, rides with everyone, gets everyone stoked, and we stock blank company that team rides for's stuff, whether it's just the disposables like pedals, grips, and tires, whatever it is, kids and people in that area are going to see that, and they're going to be more stoked on those people in that company and more likely to buy those parts. It all works together to bring things full circle and make connections between the bike shops, the local community, and the companies, as well as the riders. And it creates lifelong fans, because kids go to these things, get to see their heroes they're already a fan of, and then they get to ride with them, they get to fist bump them, they get to do whatever tricks right in front of them. And then now all of a sudden it went from, yeah, I really liked this guy, to I am a fan of this rider for my entire life now. And then it also creates lifelong BMX riders, people who might be, into it, but not fully into it, or maybe they are fully into it at the time, but maybe they would fade out of it. They're at this skate park, bike shop, meetup, whatever it is, meeting and hanging out with these pro riders, and that makes them never want to quit riding BMX ever. It just solidifies the fact that they are going to ride BMX as long as they possibly can. It's all stuff that feels entirely possible when we see companies already doing trips. It's a little extra effort, but it's that little extra effort that can go a long way, especially when it feels like nobody's really doing it anymore. So that's kind of the point of what I'm trying to get at here. Let me see what else is in my notes. And one other thing too is like, I'm saying these little things make a giant difference. There's also the fact that nothing will beat an in-person interaction. Video parts are great. Video parts are amazing. They should never stop. Team trips should never ever stop. I meant to talk about this at the very beginning. Like, those things are so awesome. And companies send riders to different places to film all the time. Like, we see that happen. And so I don't think any of those things should ever stop or slow down. But what I'm proposing is like, well, if a rider is going to be in blank area, why could they not get connected through the company that they ride for in a local bike shop or even just a skate park, and then just be there for a day? Be not even a whole day. Be there for a few hours. That's all it would really take. A few hours to establish this in-person connection between you, and this is where it really hits home, between you as the rider and the company and the team and the people who keep you in business. That is why this matters, because you're establishing and maybe not making new relationships with the bike shops, but fostering them. I keep using this word because it feels very accurate, with the people who help keep you in business. Because it's not the pros going to a random ass city and making a video that keeps you in business. You can make that video, but if nobody buys your stuff, then it doesn't matter. Now imagine you make that video, but 3 or 4 hours out of one day of your entire week of filming, you spend at a local skate park or bike shop, meeting the local people who might have been fans, but they're not riding your frame. They're not riding your bars. Now they want your frame. Now they want your bars. That is a huge deal whenever BMX is struggling. And it's the kind of thing that's like, why aren't more people doing this now? And everyone can take the easy way out of saying BMX is struggling, no one has money. Well, then don't travel across the entire country to do it. Everybody's located somewhere. So if you have a couple people in town for something, travel to that local bike shop. Travel to the bike shop 30 minutes away, an hour away. It's not that far. People drive farther than that to ride. I'm literally about to drive an hour to go ride Rays this evening. It doesn't have to be this huge orchestrated thing to happen. So yes, I understand the struggle, but I don't think the struggle is a adequate enough excuse when so much of this stuff already happens in BMX. So, the other thing to talk about with that aspect of it too, and the whole like meeting the people who are supporting you thing, is the word of mouth effect. I remember when I was in college, I had an English professor who would talk about how important these word of mouth things and experiences are, because she would talk about how for every bad experience someone has, X amount of people end up finding out about it, because the person who has a bad experience ends up telling this many people, then some of those people are inevitably going to tell a couple other people, and it's just going to spread like wildfire. And who knows what kind of a butterfly effect it might have if you have a team meet a local kid or even a local up and coming rider who's super stoked on BMX and is killing it, and they end up filming at that park and as part of their trip or a street spot or whatever, or he goes and rides with them and then ends up getting a clip in that video. You're making a fan for life. You're making someone who's going to talk about this experience, probably buy your stuff more than they already did if they did at all. And then they're going to tell more people who are going to tell more people. And that positive experience is going to just have a ripple effect that who knows how far it can actually go. And a perfect, yes, 3 of them, example of this is the Sabrosa Park party that happened in whatever years that would be, where they came to Cleveland as part of it and they rode at Changa and Rays. I can remember being there for the Rays one and how sick it was just getting to hang out with those dudes and how good they were at riding. What I also remember is a younger Gage Sharp also being there who was already just killing it. And he got some clips in their video that they put out and it got him super stoked. And now guess what? Gage rides for Sabrosa and Shadow. So you never know who that younger rider who you feature in your video and take time to film might end up being. It might end up being one of the next guys who's like Gage, who could literally make anything happen in BMX if the opportunities are presented to him. So it's just one of those things where it's like you really do never know how far these things can go. And if these shop stops and bike stops and people or bike park, skate park stops don't happen anymore, then maybe you have a bunch of people who end up falling out of BMX. And BMX is not just struggling because there's not enough new people getting into it or people staying riding or whatever, you know, there's more outside factors to it. But what I can say is if more people were stoked on BMX and more pros were interacting with more people because they were in those areas, then BMX might have a better chance because you're going to keep these riders, you're going to create more lifelong riders who are going to help support the industry because they have to buy parts and things. And I feel like it could only be a good thing. I don't see any negatives to this. And there have been a lot of these videos where I jump on and just start talking about something and it feels pretty negative and it feels like I'm saying all these things need to change and whatever. I don't think anything fully needs to change. I think it's just this is an aspect that needs to be considered more so that it can happen more, because it used to happen all the time. And it feels like it was always an awesome thing for people. And another aspect of it, I just keep thinking of more and more and more, in that another aspect of this is videos for these companies' YouTube channels. So they're already making a trip video. That means you're paying a filmer to go along and you're paying for them to make a video. So you might get the edit version of it and you might get the raw cut version of it. So you get two videos. One of them likely won't be able to be monetized because you're going to use a real song that you can't monetize on YouTube. The other one, the raw cut, that's where you could make a little bit of money back through YouTube and AdSense if it's connected. But if you have a shop stop, guess what? That instantly means if that's filmed too, that's another thing that can go on YouTube. You don't use copyrighted music on it. It's another way to bring money back, get people stoked because they go and relive those memories and watch it and remember just how cool of an experience that was, and it could influence them to want to buy that company's stuff. So I made a video not super long ago talking about how BMX needs more superheroes. And I had a mixed response to it because I think a lot of people thought I was saying something different than I was really trying to say. But my point was that when we think about the past in BMX, there were so many superhero type figures, and having these in-person interactions is what creates the superheroes. Having a kid meet their favorite rider and see them ride in person goes beyond just watching them ride in an edit or watching their Instagram videos. And like I said earlier, nothing beats that in-person interaction. So it's just going to create this, it's going to level up that person in whoever it might be's eyes. It doesn't even have to be a kid. It's just going to level up that person in whoever it is eyes to superhero status. And that is how these are created. And so that's kind of the point there. And it was kind of funny that as I was going to record this video, I got a message from Presley's mom, because Presley's mom runs his Instagram page, Presley Worley. absolutely amazing 8-year-old BMX rider. He's bouncing between Florida and Ohio right now. His parents take him to every single jam they could possibly go to. And it was funny that his mom sent me this reel that I think was just recently posted to his Instagram page and was talking about the Powers BMX Shop 20th anniversary event that they just had this past weekend, and said the pros coming out really made this event special for everyone. Thought of your story post about events like this and how it can really be impactful. And it's just funny to hear that. And then if we pull this up too, right here, it's a picture that was shared with Presley and Garrett Reynolds together. Someone else randomly took this picture and posted it. I think I saw just that it was Garrett Reynolds in there. And to see these two people where Presley's riding a Fiend stem and has Always Fiending sticker on the front of his head tube, and he's just hanging out with Garrett because this event existed where all of these different pros were there. Presley got to be around Garrett, and she said Presley is still talking about it and how awesome it was to ride with everyone. Whereas it's possible, because they were driving from Ohio to Florida, that if Chad didn't put the effort in to get all of these pros and well-recognized people in BMX at his event, they might not even have stopped at it. And this is a family that goes to a lot of events. I feel like every single one that I have been to this past year in Ohio, they were at. From the trail jam to the flatland contest to the street jams. They're at everything. And Presley just loves BMX, and getting to meet people who could be his heroes, I'm sure Garrett is gonna be with him for as long as he can remember. And so in my eyes, through someone who works in marketing, has a YouTube channel, and constantly tries to think about ways to improve BMX, an easy opportunity for BMX to be exposed to more people in a way that has more of an impact, in a more impactful way, is a shop stop or a planned meetup at a skate park whenever they're traveling, because it would be so easy to do. And another thing that this brought up with people is that the whole show experience could be a thing that people could do again, but it doesn't have to be a show that a church or a school or an organization pays for to have done. It could just be a group of riders jumping in a van with a flat rail, like the slide pipe thing S&M has, or a grind box, or a kicker, or an airbag with a lip setup, and they just put it out there that they're going to be at this place at this time, and they get their sponsors to put the word out there, and people are just going to show up, because you could just put it out there like, come ride with us. We're going to do a show, and then we're just going to ride, and then we might go ride street, or we might go ride at a skate park, or whatever it might be. And yes, it would cost money, but it's the kind of thing, and it's the kind of soul that BMX used to have. And this is kind of what I'm getting at with BMX feels like it's missing something. This is the kind of soul in like guerrilla marketing, get it done DIY aspect that BMX used to have, where people would just load up and go and do shows. And people would just load up and go to a skate park and go and meet up with people. And yeah, it was way harder back then for people to find out about these things. But when they did, I'm sure they showed up, because it probably didn't happen very often. So that just makes it easier today because of the internet and the different connectivity, like the different social medias that exist and ways for people to get the word out there about things. It would just be even easier. So I recognize that concept does cost money, but I think that if people really want it and really want to promote BMX and promote the companies that they ride for, it would be a very easy way to do it. And companies could even do it. You don't have to be contracted by a school or a church or whatever it might be to do a show. You could just send some of your riders in a flat rail to a skate park in some random area and let everybody know a month out, then 2 weeks out, then a week out, then every day before it happens on social media. And you're going to have people show up. It's that simple. And if you loop in the bike shops, you never know the impact that that could have. So I'm going to stop rambling at this point. It's been almost 36 minutes. I just wanted to talk about this and recognize that, yes, BMX is probably the best that it's ever been in almost all aspects, but I still feel like there's something missing. And I think that this shop stop in-person interaction aspect of things that could go in so many different ways would bring a little bit of the soul back that it feels like is missing because of the internet and because of social media and because of how superficial things have become with all of that at fault. It's an emoji response on the internet. It's just randomly sharing and tagging people because of the things that they might be able to do for you, and you really don't care about it. It's all of those things that when you're in person and you're there with somebody and you get to meet them face to face, you weed out those randoms on the internet who are just trying to put themselves forward. Or you find out the underground super shredder that you never met before and no one's ever seen before because they only have 100 followers and they really don't care about Instagram. Those are the types of things that I kind of feel like they've gone a little bit by the wayside that this could help. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Sound off in the comments. Let's have a conversation about this one. And if you are a bike company owner, a team manager, you work at a company, just bring up the idea of doing shop stops again and look at the positives that could come from it and look at what you're already doing that could have them worked in. You might be surprised at how easily you could work something like this in that could really help your business and help BMX as a whole. So have a good day, everyone, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.